Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis hit third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the New York Mets in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Mets, right-hander Tyler McGill, and for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 10:40 a.m. at Citi Field in Queens, New York. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler in just a few minutes as well, plus our keys to the game and much, much more to come. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside. Padres enter with a record of 37-37. Yes, they're back at 500. Padres started this road trip coming off their first series sweep of the season and a 5-2 homestand, but now the Padres have lost 2 in a row and are trying to avoid being swept by the Mets. New York is 32-37 entering today. The Mets are playing better. They've won 4 in a row in 10 of their last 14 games. Despite being 5 games below 500, the Mets are actually looking for their 5th sweep of the season here today. Before we turn our full attention to today's game, let's take a look back at what happened on a Saturday in NYC.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino, fun above all else.
Padres starter Adam Mazur danced around trouble in the first 3 innings. He walked 6, but he did not allow a run. Mazur got the first 2 outs in the bottom half of the 4th inning, but then Francisco Lindor hit a 2-out double. Brandon Nimmo was next.
Here's Nimmo, left-handed batter, swings at the first pitch, lines it into right center. That's going to give the Mets the lead. Tatis cuts it off in front of the warning track, sends it back to the infield, but it's an RBI double for Brandon Nimmo as Lindor crosses the plate, and New York in front 1-0. Ironically, without a walk.
That was it for Mazur. He came out. Johnny Brito came in to face J.D. Martinez.
A look back. Now the 3-2 pitch. Sent in the air to deep right field. Tatis back. He is at the wall. Looking up. Going to go. Opposite field home run for J.D. Martinez. Almost the exact spot he hit his walk-off against the Marlins a couple of nights ago. Just like that. 3-0 New York here in the bottom of the 4th.
The Padres answered in the top of the 5th inning against Mets starter Jose Quintana. That was courtesy of Jackson Merrill.
Here's Merrill, lefty to lefty. Jackson swings, hits one in the air to deep right center field. Stewart over into the gap. He's watching this one. Gonna go! Jackson Merrill again! His 4th home run in the last 3 games, and the Padres are on the board here in the 5th.
Merrill's 7th home run of the season. Quintana gave up just the Merrill home run in the 5th inning. He pitched a scoreless 6th inning. Enyel De Los Santos entered for the bottom half of the 7th inning. J.D. Martinez led off for New York.
Brito ends up going 2 1/3, allowed the 1 run on 2 hits. Martinez swings here, hits another one into deep right center field, and again it is gone. Unbelievable. Same spot as his last at-bat. Same spot as his walk-off the other night against the Marlins. And Martinez, 2nd home run of the day, makes it 4-1 New York here in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Padres couldn't score another run. Mets would go on to win it 5-1. The Mets winning the first 2 games of this 3-game set. And that's where we are as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 10:40 in Flushing, Queens. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me at SammyLev, SammyLev. Instagram DM's open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also comment on our various video streams. A happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. A happy Father's Day to my dad, Jeffrey. tuning in from New York. My dad went to Citi Field yesterday. Now enjoying a little Padres pregame coverage from home on this Sunday. Let's go to Citi Field.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Jesse, happy Father's Day to you as we get ready for today's game in New York. And obviously the Padres have had a tough couple of days offensively, just 2 runs on 7 hits. They're back at 500. And Jesse, sort of round and round we go with the up and down nature of this season now here in mid-June.
Very much been the pattern to this point. That does not, of course, mean it'll be the pattern all year long. Things will change, one way or another, whether it's a transaction or a hot streak or something like that. But, there's no doubt. I mean, we've really been able to, it almost feels like see these things coming. It's like if you've won 3 in a row and you got a couple left-handed starters coming out, you go, uh-oh. That's kind of just the way it's been this year. It has been weird. I don't have any great explanations for you. I'm just along for the ride, like everybody else. And I do think, at some point they're going to be able to kick it into another gear. I don't know what gets that to happen or when it's going to happen. But I just look down at the not only the talent, but also, sort of the style that this team plays offensively. I think they're made to avoid, big cold streaks with some of their consistency. And you start getting a couple of these guys all clicking at the same time. And I think you'll see them, run off a few in a row here in a way that we haven't yet seen. Beyond that, obviously, the National League kind of is what the National League is this year.
Yeah, and it's a really good point. Despite the Padres maybe not going on that big-time run yet, they also haven't got super cold for an extended stretch as well, and they sit right at 500. And obviously, like you alluded to, in this very wide-open NL, right in the midst of things. Let's talk about the guy on the mound today for the Padres. That's right-hander Dylan Cease. And I think there are a couple of ways to look at his season so far, Jesse. Obviously, the last 6 starts or so, maybe not as sharp as what we saw early on, but you sort of zoom out and look at what he's done this season, and even as of late, these starts have still been pretty good, and it's just a good reminder of how good this guy is at his best, and certainly the Padres could use a big-time start from Dylan Cease here today.
Yeah, he's an elite guy. He's a top-of-the-rotation kind of arm, and when you got somebody like that, you're going to be able to feel like you got a shot to win pretty much every time he goes out there. He's not only really good, he's a lot better than he was last year. Last year he had trouble with the walk. It's almost as if he showed up, shook Ruben Niebla's hand, and now no longer has issues with walks. I know it's not that simple. I know he's put in a lot of work, but he's really been not only as advertised, but really beyond that, and it's been fun watching him work. The thing right now, of course, is, if we're going to zoom back in a little bit, is it's not about the starting pitcher. Even with Major, kind of having issues with the walks yesterday, Padres ended up giving up 5 runs. They got 2 hits to themselves. So it's about getting the bats going again here right now, certainly, and backing up Dylan Cease, who you obviously expect to go out there and do some pretty good things.
Yeah, it's certainly about the offense. 2 runs on 7 hits in the series. Hard to win a lot of games like that. Yeah. Again, we're joined by Jesse Agler as we get ready for today's game here on the Padres Radio Network. And Jesse, I think we may have touched on it on Friday, but this most recent power surge from Jackson Merrill continues to be impressive. Another home run yesterday, and it's something that I talked with Tony about during the pregame yesterday. The way he continues to put together quality at bats, the quality of his defense in center field, and now this show of power, it's just a good reminder of what the ceiling may ultimately be for Jackson Merrill and how good this guy has been at just 20 and then 21 years old. It continues to be really impressive.
It's really one of the more impressive, rookie seasons that I've seen. And I think, what Fernando did as a rookie pretty much has to go into its own category, right? It was, he exploded onto the scene, in a way that most guys, can only ever dream of. But, not only the way Merrill has produced, but also the way he has carried himself. And the other piece of it, and Tony and I have talked about it quite a few times this year, is I think we're both really, really pleased with how the Padres have kind of handled Jackson Merrill this year. Specifically not putting too much pressure on him and sort of resisting the temptation when he's gotten going a little bit, in these offensive bursts to hit him higher up in the lineup. This guy, he's going to be a top-of-the-order lineup guy at some point in his career. But I like that he isn't yet. Not that he isn't capable of it, not that he wouldn't produce, but they have a lineup that is good enough and deep enough that he doesn't have to hit up there, and they can sort of allow him to just sort of continue to go through all the things that he's going to have to go through while down at the bottom of the order, which is a layer of pressure removed than if he were hitting, somewhere in the top. And I think that's going to go a really, really long way for him over the course of his long-term development in the major leagues.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun to watch. We'll see what's in store for Jackson Merrill and the Padres here today. Jesse, as always, appreciate the time. Enjoy what looks like a very nice day in New York City on this Sunday, and then a short trip to Philadelphia for the start of a series tomorrow against the Phillies. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 10:30 here in Southern California.
You got it, Sam. Thanks.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for this one. First pitch coming up at 10:40 in New York City. Little Padres and pancakes for you on a Sunday morning on this Father's Day. And like I said, you can always get involved with our pregame coverage. And really two things I want to do today. Number one, as we always do with our Padres and pancakes, our morning pregame shows. If you want to send me a message or a tweet or an email or a DM, whatever, and with a photo of how you're enjoying Padres baseball this morning. Maybe you got the pancakes on the griddle. Maybe you got the waffle maker going. Maybe you've got the coffee already in hand. Let me know how you're enjoying Padres baseball, and feel free to send a photo. And if you have a shout out to the dads out there, if you want to share a baseball memory with your dad, you can do that as well. May mention it on the pregame show a little bit later on as we get ready for the final game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Mets. More pregame coverage coming up after this on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch. Coming up at 10:40 in New York City. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound today for the Padres, and right-hander Tyler McGill on the mound for the New York Mets. We'll have who's hot, who's not coming up in just a little bit. Also a look at our keys to the game, a full breakdown of this pitching matchup. But first, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Day game after a night game, so no pregame media availability for Mike Shildt today. So we'll revisit what Mike Shildt had to say yesterday after the Padres' 5-1 loss to the New York Mets. Not a great game for the Pods, especially offensively. They had just 2 hits, and one of those hits was the home run from Jackson Merrill, a solo shot, his second in as many days. And the Padres only have 2 runs in the first 2 games of this series on 7 hits combined, and the 2 runs have both come on Jackson Merrill solo home run. So the Padres offense did not do a whole lot yesterday. Adam Mazur somehow, some way got through 3 2/3 innings with 2 earned runs given up. And I say that because Mazur walked 6 in the first 3 innings of the game, did not allow a run. Then J.D. Martinez, a couple of home runs in the game. He continues to have a big-time series. A tough day for the Padres as they fell 5-1. And now today they'll look to avoid a sweep. Here was what Mike Shildt had to say after yesterday's loss.
I can start with Adam. Just somehow navigated and then just caught up with him, or?
Yeah, I mean, dodged traffic the whole way. A lot of it self-inflicted, But he made pitches when he had to, showed some intestinal fortitude to be able to escape some jams. Got 2 quick outs. The ironic part is he got 2 quick outs in his last inning, and Lindor put a bat on him, and then Nemo got him and chased him, and didn't want him to see Martinez for the 3rd time. But I don't think we could have brought in, Walter Johnson to face Martinez right now. I don't think it would matter. So anyway, just victim of his own. Lack of ability to command the ball consistently, but give him a ton of credit for being able to navigate and get into the 4th inning without giving up a run, and gave us a chance.
If there's one thing you guys knew, it was that he was a strike thrower.
Right.
What's the theory on what's happened since?
I think we discussed it before the game. Listen, I think it's pretty accurate with this. You get to this stage, it's a little bit of a feeling out process. I don't know if the zones are tighter or not. That's not a part of it, I don't think, too much, but it is real. But, bigger environment, just feeling your way through it a little bit. And I think that's part of it, too, just generally speaking. I can't speak for him or his emotions, but, when you see guys get into traffic and they go, you know what, I'm going to get after it. And not to say he wasn't getting after it early, that's not the point at all, but when you go, I'm just going to go let my ability go and play, then you see positive things. So, it's a learning curve for sure, and Adam hadn't have a ton of AAA time, so we're at a big stage. But I commend him highly for being able to take a step back and make pitches and throw up some zeros. The guy left with 1 run on the board with 2 outs in the 4, so he did his part.
Rare kind of day for the offense.
Yeah, rare kind of day. Not as many as consistent as bats as. Again, Quintana's about balance and timing. Shadows were out there. That part's real. They're hitting in them too, and able to get some balls out of the ballpark. So, he got the guys off balance a little bit. He pitched. He's a pitch maker. He's a guy that's been in this league a long time and survived being able to do it with stuff and moxie. And he pitched well today, and their bullpen was effective as well.
Second straight day with Merrill getting a home run off a lefty. Does he seem to be getting more comfortable against left-handed pitching in the recent weeks?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. He's taking good at-bats against lefties all year. He had a really big hit early in the season and a big moment in the 8th over in L.A. against Vesia. He's shown the ability to just, have good at-bats regardless. Obviously, being an everyday guy, it's one of the things that we were intentional about early in the season. We're going to hit for him against lefties. He's going to be an everyday guy. He's going to show the ability to do it. He's clearly shown that ability, and now he's opening up his game and driving the baseball regardless of handiness.
and second straight night where he's the only run. Do you see him being more comfortable as a leader, even as emotional leader, or as you see him coming around third base? Like, how do you see him being in that role?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've got a lot of guys that are self-led in our clubhouse, and I'm really grateful for this clubhouse. It's a very, very, it's a pro clubhouse, and it allows Jackson to go be himself, and everybody's welcomed him and done their part, but also he's allowed to lead himself and go bring that energy that Jackson brings, and that's contagious and important.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after yesterday's loss. Padres losing 5-1 to the New York Mets. And we'll see if the Padres can avoid a sweep at the hands of the Mets with first pitch coming up at 10:40 a.m. here in San Diego. Before we continue on, let's quickly pause for station ID on the Padres radio network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for the final game of this three-game series. And we'll hear more from Mike Shildt a little bit later on during our post-game show once this series comes to an end. Now let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with a look at the hot category. Jackson Merrill certainly in that category for the Padres. His last 10 games batting .351 with 4 home runs, 4 doubles, and 6 RBIs. JD Martinez in that category for the Mets. His last 14 games batting .315 with an 1107 OPS, 5 home runs, 9 extra base hits, and 15 RBIs during that span. Martinez has 4 hits, 2 home runs, and 5 RBIs already in this series. Starling Marte for the Mets, also in the hot category. His last 11 games batting .436 with 4 extra base hits and 9 RBIs. In the not category, we take a look at Manny Machado. It's been a tough last 3 games for Manny. He's 0 for 12 with 6 strikeouts in that span. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not as we get ready for first pitch in New York. A quick look at the starting lineups here today while we have a moment. Lineup for the Padres today looks like this. Luis Arraez at first base leading off. He's followed by Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field batting second. Jurickson Profar, the DH, batting third. Jake Cronenworth at second base batting cleanup. Manny Machado back at third base for a second consecutive day batting fifth. Jackson Merrill, the center fielder, batting sixth. David Peralta in left today batting seventh. Ha-Sung Kim at shortstop batting eighth. And behind the plate, making his first appearance in this series, that is Luis Campusano batting ninth with right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound. Meanwhile, for the Mets, their lineup looks like this. Francisco Lindor, the shortstop, leading off. Brandon Nimmo in left field batting second. JD Martinez, the DH, batting third. Pete Alonso at first base batting cleanup. Starling Marte in right batting fifth. Mark Vientos at third base batting sixth. Luis Torrens, the catcher, batting seventh. Jeff McNeil at second base batting eighth. And Harrison Bader in center batting ninth, with right-hander Tylor Megill on the hill for New York. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll update you on both Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish. There was an update earlier this morning on Joe Musgrove per Kevin Acee in the San Diego Union-Tribune. So we'll talk about that. When we come back, we'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, go through our keys to the game, plus coming up later, we take a deeper look at our pitching matchup between Cease and Megill. Much, much more to do on this Sunday morning. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there on this Sunday. More pregame coverage coming up after this. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse Agler and Tony McGuinn Jr. in just about 23 minutes. They'll have the lineups for you again, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play beginning at 10:40 as the Padres try to avoid this three-game sweep in New York. And one reason the Padres would be wise to win today's game and not get swept in New York, aside from the obvious, because you don't want to lose a game and get swept. But the Padres have to go play the Phillies, who are the best team in the National League right now, and they have to face some very, very good starting pitchers in Philadelphia tomorrow through Wednesday. Tomorrow they'll face left-hander Christopher Sanchez, a 3.07 ERA, tough right-hander Aaron Nola on Tuesday, a 3.48 ERA, and oh, by the way, on Wednesday, Ranger Suarez, who has a 1.77 ERA on the season. So this road trip after today does not get any easier for the San Diego Padres, and it means today does feel like a little bit of a big game for the Padres with right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound. The offense not doing a whole lot the first two games of this series. I just bring it up to say you feel like it would be very wise of the Padres to play better today and try to get out of New York with a win. Let's update you on the situations and the injuries to Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Both these updates were courtesy of Kevin Acee in the San Diego Union Tribune the last couple of days. Let's start with Yu Darvish because this was reported on yesterday. Darvish threw 60 pitches in the bullpen on Friday afternoon. He sat down and resumed pitching twice to simulate 3 innings. Darvish said earlier on Friday that he felt the simulation would be sufficient ramp up for him to be ready to have his next step be starting a game. That return to the mound would likely come during this upcoming homestand that begins on Thursday against Milwaukee. Darvish will throw a regular between starts bullpen session before then. But again, the major update there, Yu Darvish did throw 60 pitches in the bullpen on Friday in sort of what sounds like a bit of a simulated game, if you will. So we'll see what the deal is for Darvish moving forward, and it certainly sounds like a possibility that he'll be back pretty soon. As far as Joe Musgrove, here was the update from Kevin this morning. Joe Musgrove stood on a mound on Saturday for the first time since going on the IL and did flexibility exercises to retrain his body as he attempts to slightly alter his delivery in order to take some stress off his arm. The plan for Joe is to play catch for the first time on either Wednesday or Thursday in Philadelphia. Musgrove last pitched on May 26th. So, again, you heard there from Kevin. Plan right now is that Joe will play catch for the first time since being shut down on Wednesday or Thursday in Philly, and then I assume we go from there. So, good news, I would say, with Joe Musgrove, that there is a plan for him to start throwing again, and sounds like they'll sort of take it from there, but it does seem like we are a ways away from Joe Musgrove returning to the mound. But Yu Darvish, it does sound like he's very close, so we'll see what the deal is with you, what the deal is with Joe in the days and weeks to come. And that's a look at our injury report on this Sunday. Obviously, Joe and you, very, very important to this Padres rotation and this ball club, and certainly would love to get both of them back. And the good news, again, it sounds like Yu Darvish may be back sooner rather than later. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, tell you what's going on this Sunday in the big leagues.
Let's take a trip around the bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We have one game going on right now. Cardinals and the Cubs in Chicago at Wrigley Field. First inning there, no score at Wrigley. Games yet to begin. Everything coming up in a little while. Marlins at the Nationals in D.C. at 10:35. Phillies and the Orioles at 10:35 in Baltimore. Rays and the Braves in Atlanta at 10:35. Guardians and the Blue Jays at 10:37 in Toronto. Reds and the Brewers at 11:10 in Milwaukee. Tigers at the Astros in Houston at 11:10. A's and the Twins will play a doubleheader today in Minnesota. Game 1 of that doubleheader at 11:10. Pirates and the Rockies in Colorado at 12:10. Angels and the Giants at 1:05 in San Francisco. White Sox and the Diamondbacks at 1:10 in Arizona. Royals and the Dodgers at 1:10 in LA. Rangers and the Mariners at 1:10 in Seattle. Yankees and the Red Sox at Fenway Park at 4 p.m. later on today. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Sunday. By the way, I don't know if anybody caught that Royals-Dodgers game yesterday, but I'm telling you, MJ Melendez, and you'll like to hear this if you're a Padres fan, he had one of the best at-bats that I've seen all year and really in a while in that Royals-Dodgers game, and it was so good that I tweeted about it. He fouled off a number of really tough pitches in a row with the bases loaded against Dodgers reliever Blake Trinan. The at-bat got to 12 pitches, and then Melendez took him deep for a grand slam, and that propelled the Royals to a win in L.A. last night. It was worth pointing out, and it's worth talking about again because it was so mighty impressive, that at-bat, and oh, by the way, it led to a Dodgers loss. So I'm sure everybody here in America's finest city, you don't mind hearing that. San Diego County Toyota dealers are proud partners of the Padres and supporters of the San Diego community, and we would like to especially recognize and honor the men and women who serve our country on this Military Sunday. Thank you, and go Padres. We'll step aside on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. When we come back, we have a lot to do. We'll have our keys to the game. We'll also dive deeper into this pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Tyler McGill, and much, much more to come as we get ready for the final game of this 3-game set coming up in New York City. Our pregame coverage continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch. Coming up at 10:40 in New York, we'll go out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. in just about 13 minutes. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. Well, today marks 10 years since we lost Tony Gwynn, one of the greatest players in the history of baseball, and obviously a man who meant so much to the Padres organization and our community here in San Diego. His legacy continues to live on here in our community. I would encourage you to read an article written by A.J. Casvell, the reporter that covers the Padres for MLB.com. Tony Gwynn Jr. Retweeted it a couple of days ago. I retweeted it as well earlier today. It really is a terrific article talking about Tony Gwynn, his impact on the community, younger players, his time as the head coach at San Diego State. Just a really, really well-written, well-researched article by A.J. Casvell. I would encourage you to read it on this day as Tony Gwynn continues to have a lasting impact and legacy on our community. First pitch again at 10:40 in New York. Let's give you our keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number one for the Padres here today, hit. One word, hit. Or I can use three words if you want that. Hit the baseball. 2 runs on 7 hits in this series so far, and both the runs have come on solo home runs from the Padres' 21-year-old rookie. That ain't gonna get it done. Manny Machado, 0 for 8 in this series. Donovan Solano, 0 for 7 in this series. Jake Cronenworth, 0 for 5 in this series. Ha-Sung Kim, 0 for 5 in this series. Not gonna work. Hit the baseball. That is key number one. As simply as I could possibly put it. I'm not getting into numbers, not getting into strategy, approach. Hit the baseball. That's key number one. Key number two, the Padres got to slow down J.D. Martinez and this Mets offense. Martinez is 6 for 10 with 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 3 walks, and 7 RBIs in his last 3 games. Had a walk-off home run on Thursday, then homered twice in yesterday's Mets win. Mets are averaging 5.4 runs per game during this 14-game hot stretch. They've won 10 of 14. To give you an idea of how much better their offense has been, the Mets have been averaging just 4.1 runs per game through their first 55 games. And like I said, that's up to nearly 5.5 in this recent 14-game stretch. Key number 3, Luis Arraez at the top of the Padres lineup today, and here's why. Arraez, we talked about it yesterday, he's been a little bit quieter lately. If you look at his last 6 games, he's actually batting under 200. Now, it's a little skewed because he had a couple of 0 for 5s. He's also had a couple of multi-hit games in that 6-game span. But I bring up Arraez today because he's had very good career numbers against Mets starter Tylor Megill. Arraez is 4 for 6 with a double in his career against Megill. So getting Arraez going today, very start of the game, very top of the lineup, that's key number 3. And that's a look at our keys to today's game. But the biggest key today, no doubt about it, hit the baseball. Padres got to get this offense going. We talked about it yesterday. Very hard to win a baseball game when you have just 2 hits. And we'll see if the Padres can rev up the offense in the lineup here today. First pitch coming up at 10:40 in New York City. Let's tell you what to watch for in this one.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? How about the Mets bullpen? This bullpen has been very solid as of late. Last 11 games, the Mets bullpen has a 1.96 ERA. They've struck out 48 in 41-plus innings. Overall this season, the Mets bullpen has actually been pretty good, 3.61 ERA. That ranks 6th in the National League. So what to watch for in this one? Tyler McGill, it's not like he's been going super deep into his starts, so in all likelihood, the Padres are going to have to face a number of Mets relievers here today. Edwin Diaz should be available after he was unavailable yesterday after pitching in consecutive days after coming off the IL. So what to watch for today? How do the Padres fare offensively against the Mets bullpen that has been very solid lately, and you figure a good chance they're going to have to face a number of relievers out of that pen here today. That's what to watch for in this one as the Padres take on the New York Mets. As always, as we have a little Padres and pancakes on this Sunday morning, an opportunity for you to chime in and let me know, or show me even, how you're enjoying Padres baseball on this Sunday morning. I have a photo here from Deborah, who is enjoying a Mexican mocha and brown butter sea salt chocolate chip cookie from Bear Buns Bakery in Serra Mesa. And I'm looking at the photo of this chocolate chip cookie. It looks very good. Looks about half eaten, but that sounds really good. What is that? That's a mocha and brown butter sea salt chocolate chip cookie. Got to check that out. And it looks like Deborah's also reading the San Diego Union Tribune. I like that. Is there a better feeling than that, right? Sunday morning, getting ready to enjoy some Padres baseball, cup of coffee, a nice pastry, and the local paper. I mean, I don't know how many people actually read the physical paper anymore, but even if you're just doing it on your iPad or whatever, it's a great feeling. Maybe I'll do that once I'm done here. Let's take a look at our pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Tyler McGill.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
On the mound for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease, 28 years old. Cease this season, 6-5, a 3.36 ERA in 14 starts, 83 innings, 101 strikeouts, 23 walks, is 199. Opponent batting average ranks fourth in the majors, is 101 strikeouts, also ranked fourth in the major leagues. Last start against Oakland, 6 innings, 1 earned run given up on 8 hits. The run came on a solo home run. Last 6 starts for Dylan Cease, like we alluded to earlier, a 5.08 ERA. It's been a little bit more up and down when you compare it to the 2.19 ERA he had in his first 8 starts with the Padres to begin his early Padre career. Part of the issues in the last 6 starts have been the home runs. 7 home runs allowed in his last 6. Again, you compare that to just 2 home runs given up in his first 8 starts of the season. Cease has made 1 career start against the Mets. That came back in 2019 in Chicago with the White Sox. 7 innings, 4 earned runs given up. Gave up a home run to a player that once played for the Mets, then later would play for the Padres. I'll give you a second to think about it. Once played for the Mets, later played for the Padres. This was back in 2019. That player was Robinson Cano. Cano would become a Padre in 2022 for a brief period of time. The arsenal for Dylan Cease, the 4-seam fastball, the slider, uses those 2 pitches a lot. Also will mix in the knuckle curve, sweeper, cutter, and a changeup. On the mound for the Mets, right-hander Tyler McGill, 28 years old, a 3.51 ERA in 5 starts this season, 25 2/3 innings, 32 strikeouts, 11 walks. A start earlier this week against the Marlins, he went 4 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs given up on 5 hits. McGill missed all of April and most of May with a shoulder strain. Made a start against the Padres last season in April, gave up 2 runs in 5 innings, and the arsenal for McGill, 4-seamer, cutter, slider, splitter, curveball, changeup, and every once in a while he'll mix in a sweeper. And that's a look at our pitching matchup here today between Tyler McGill and Dylan Cease on the mound for the Pods. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com as we get ready for the final game of this series in New York. Taking a look at some of your keys to today's game, we'll pull up some YouTube comments right now. Caleb saying, early run support. Caleb, you make an excellent point. The Padres have 2 runs total in this series. Grabbing a lead and running with it from there, that certainly would be a good way to play here today. So a good point there by Caleb. Scoring some runs here today, that would go a long way if the Padres want to avoid a 3-game sweep in New York. Let's set the table one more time for you. Padres entered today with a record of 37-37. Padres were 5-2 on their last homestand against Oakland and Arizona, but they've now lost 2 in a row. The Mets, meanwhile, are 32-37. They've won 4 in a row, 10 of their last 14 games. Mets looking for their 5th sweep of the season today, despite being 5 games below 500. And like I alluded to earlier, Padres after this one, it's not going to get any easier because they got to go to Philadelphia, play the team with the best record in the National League. They face some really good starting pitching tomorrow through Wednesday in Philadelphia, so it does feel like a big one in New York here today. We'll see how the Padres do in the final game of this series. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.